is the fact that the last one I had, which lasted 3 months, was quite interesting actually, Jaya, to the point that I didn't see the red flags initially in the beginning. I
Mhm.
was under the illusion of what she had said to me that she wanted, and within 4 weeks to 8 weeks, it was shown quite clearly that this sister, was not ready to unpack her own stuff. The words that, and what I'm finding, and I want to, and when you talk about vulnerability, I want to share with you in vulnerability, right? Is one of the things that I'm seeing myself personally, and it's not a judgment against the sisters or the brothers out there. Is that a lot of people do not want to unpack. They speak it, but they're not walking it, right? They're not walking their truth. So they say they want a person who's vulnerable and transparent and honest, and walk in their integrity and walk with them as equal, and all of this beautiful fluffy union stuff, right? But they're not walking it. And
Yeah.
then when you get someone like a conscious person like myself, and I want to use the word person because we're talking about both the women and men in this whole gear up today, is that when it comes to the crunching, you get a person like myself who is consciously aware, is learning through it and wants to do all these things. They run a mile.
Mm.
They run a freaking mile. It's like it's too much for them. The light's too much, because then all of their shadows that they've been burying away come to the surface. And it's like, oh my God, how the hell do I deal with this? And then all of the insecurities and come up to the surface, and all their fears come up to the surface, and all their traumas and stuff from the past relationships come up to the surface. And it's like, unless you got someone who's emotionally available, who's willing to unpack that,
Mm.
it's very challenging to move forward into a union with someone once you get that connection started. Okay. And what I found in the last one was exactly that. That no matter how much I wanted to not sweep it under the carpet, and I wanted to talk it through and all the rest of it, this woman did not. And
Mhm.
in the end, it subsequently ended. She walked away with fears and then started tearing me down to her friends and what a bad person I was and all the rest of it. When all I did was shower her with love,
Mm.
of gifts, and my unconditional love of let's work through this. Let's walk through this together. Let's walk as equals.
So, I mean, like what comes up for me when you're sharing that is I kind of want to know, all right, what was the shadowy parts of yourself that you weren't willing to see during that, like, because, okay, we're all mirrors to each other.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
there's this, I know within myself, like through my recent sacred connection,
Yeah.
that there was always I'm willing to see my stuff, and I'm really willing to own and go into that. And I do find similar of it's a lot, and I mirror a lot, and sometimes that intense mirror backward scares the shit out of people
Yeah.
because being in my presence and unpacking is like, I have to see bits of myself. But what I also realized was, and I don't know if this is something that relates to you as well, but what I found was when I'm in relationship or in a divine connection,
Yeah.
that I can tend to become more judgmental that someone's not meeting me. And that's all right. We'll download it off Facebook. um, so someone's not meeting me in where I want to be met. And I make it about like there becomes this lens that comes out of judgment towards another person where I may focus on where they're out of alignment or where they're not willing to do the work or where they're
Now, this is exactly what happened in this one that I just had. I want to say that to you because straight away I got judged to nine ways to Sunday. I got judged, right? Because it's like, no, it's all your fault. No, you're the one with the problem. I'm the one that's holding completely. I don't have issues, right? And it was like, whoa, hang on a minute. And I started to indirectly take on her insecurities and her fears, which I had small amounts. And when I started to pull it apart and look at it, it's like, hang on a minute, this isn't all my stuff. And this is when I brought it to the surface for her, she did not want to acknowledge it. So it's like, wow, okay, that's insane. Because, and that's exactly what happens. And yeah, okay, sure, I will admit it, I got judgments, obviously small amounts. I've worked through a lot of them over the time, but I got judged 9 ways of Sunday from her in regards to where I was sitting, where she believed that I wasn't good enough for her and I wasn't high enough. Even though she was saying she wasn't looking for perfection, she was looking for perfection.
Yeah.
And wasn't willing to do the inner work on this stuff. Whereas every time I got triggered and I went off to grab some healing or do some healing around the traumas and stuff in my childhood, right, she'd just keep carrying on. And that's where it all fell apart, because in the end it became me carrying all the weight on my shoulders, believing it was all my problem when it wasn't. But I was the one getting judged. And then I caught myself being a little bit judgmental, thinking, what the hell's going on here? What am I doing? And I started to feel bad about myself, and I started to pull myself down because she was pulling me down.
So this is beautiful, because there's what we're mirroring to each other is me being in my divine feminine and you being in your masculine, and I can see the areas of wounding that come in from each other, right? So I would have been, to some degree, what your divine partner was to you, and there becomes this projection to avoid seeing some of the things inside of ourselves. Even though I was willing to see myself, what happens is the mind is always protecting, always.
Yeah.
And so it's creating stories until you're really able to drop in. And we all have trauma, right? So trauma comes out when you're in a relationship. That's just what happens. And I feel like it's interesting because this is a dynamic that I have experienced a lot in my relationships, is where I've played the superiority card in avoidance of my unworthiness of love, right? So there's been this superiority piece that comes up. And what I've noticed in my own relationships is when that is said in whatever ways, to whatever subtleties, because I have done so much work, but there's still slithery, slimy bits of ego that come in and project or manipulate or do whatever it does. And what I see with, I guess, the wounding of the masculine is there's a story then created that I have to be this and I have to meet this expectation. And it's not actually an expectation I'm putting on a person, but it's the one that, you, would have created for yourself at the same time due to that situation. So then you're always going into this unworthiness, not being good enough cycle of a story. And
absolutely.
There's a man that's feeling unworthy and there's a woman that's feeling unlovable. And instead of meeting in the icky of what's there, it becomes you're saying I'm doing this and it's all me and I'm the issue from the man, and the woman generally, if we're looking at masculine and feminine energy, and the feminine is well, come on, level up. You're not doing it, but in the avoidance of turning that back onto the self and seeing.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And that's what I'm, not a judgment, but I mean, from my perspective, or I'm sitting with Jaya, this is what I'm seeing a lot of women out there doing, is they're turning it on us rather than turning it back within, saying, well, hang on a minute, what's going on for me here, and why am I doing this to this beautiful man or woman? Because it could be the men who do it too. I'm not going to segregate or place anyone in a box here. I want to make that clear. All right. But that was the other thing that happened to the relationship or union I had back in years ago for 4 years. So from 2015 to 2019, it was the same deal.
Mm.
right? Level up, level up, level up. I kept getting told. I get getting torn down. I get getting torn down. I had to lift myself up, torn down, lift up, torn down, lift up. And it's like, and I'm thinking when I eventually saw towards the end of the union, when it ended, what was unfolding, I realized it was an avoidance of her to look at her own inner core wounds from her childhood. And most of them were dad issues, father issues, right? Of abuse or whatever. Now, it's only because I've unpacked this for 3 years, right, Gio, that I've seen this and understood it by the relation and the reflecting and me working through my own stuff. And then my higher self, angelic realm, whatever, they all gave me the keys and said, have a look at this, Seraph. What can you see what happened? Can you see what's going on? Can you see why this unfolded? And obviously, ultimately, at the end of the day, my understanding was the union wasn't meant to last anyway. It was meant to be for a short term, and she was meant to move on and do her path of learning, and I was meant to do mine, which is what I've been doing, and she's doing hers, right? With notwithstanding, we're still friends on Facebook. We don't communicate much, but that's okay. That's beside the point. This is what I'm finding now. The big thing I'm seeing at the moment too from the divine masculine is they are struggling completely. The men in general are struggling with being vulnerable. Now I will unpack in front of anyone. You've seen me on lives on Facebook when I've broken down in tears and I've just let rip, right? And the biggest thing for me was this last one I just had for 3 months. That was huge for me because number one, I felt betrayed again. Two, I lost trust in the women again because, oh my God, I've been burnt so freaking chronically over the years. It's like, when is this crap ever freaking going to end? Right? When are the women going to step up? When they say they want a man, when are they going to start looking at their own inner shadows and their own darkness instead of projecting it onto the men? And the same for the men. I'm not judging here. I'm saying the men are the same, right? Because I'm a seraphim, a way show, light worker, whatever. I'm a bloody mixed bag of everything, Palladian and starseed, right? So, but I'm just saying, this is what I'm seeing out there right now, and it knocked me fricks. And you know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. The week after that happened, I had a session with a friend of mine on the coast here, and I went into a spiral, and that triggered me all the way back to my childhood of what had happened to me around the age of 11 and 12 when I was indecently assaulted by a friend of the family, a lady of all things, right? And how much trust I don't have in women because of how I was mistreated back then, right? And that related all the way back here again. So then I have to start rebuilding the trust within me. And it's the same with the women out there too. They lack trust within themselves and discernment of who they're getting into. And the other thing I want to say is, and this is just my perspective, is a lot of the women seem to be drawn to what we call the bad boys, right? As in the ones who are mischievous and will abuse you and treat you poorly because of whatever happened in their childhood. Now, the men are the same, all right? But I'm speaking specifically from my perspective, what I see with the women. Not all of them, but a lot of them will draw themselves to the bad boys. And it's always karmic relationships. It's always karmic. They've either signed up for that or they haven't, or they're just drawn to that person because of their own inner wounds that they're not healing within themselves. And when they do get someone like myself or a woman that comes in, it's that trigger alert thing coming up. So when they, unless they're willing to do the inner work and look at the reflection and actually take ownership, responsibility for their own inner wounds that come to the surface, then ultimately the union will end eventually.
Yeah.
Or the emotional stuff will get hidden and both parties will be miserable.
Yeah. And I mean, like, so if I really like sit with what's coming up for me around this is just this continued division that takes place because we attract each other to see our wounds. And
yes, that's true.
the the divide that keeps happening is not only external, but it's internal. So what
Yes.
the masculine in all of us does not trust the feminine, right? So you've
No.
had experiences in your life where, you know, you don't trust the feminine because you were assaulted. And then that's been perpetuated through life experience that has been re-triggered and re-wounded. And then even this most recent relationship is that. How I have started to really understand this is that that divide will continue and will continue to create that relationship until you, as your masculine pillar, can hold strong enough with that you can hold and be present and support your own feminine and allow your authentic expression and emotion and the somatic work to come through. And
Absolutely agree, Jaya. Absolutely agree with you completely with that. Yes, that is so true. Yes.
And the same for me. Like my most recent sacred connection, I tuned in straight away because I'm so aware of this. Like I'm aware that we are attracted to see ourselves at a deeper level.
Yeah.
All we want is wholeness, internal union. That's what every single individual human being desires.
Absolutely.
And so in the awareness that I know that I want that within, I'm like, okay, what is this person presenting to me? What are they gifting to me? And I knew that there was a piece around protection and commitment. And it's taken its time and its journey to really see what that was, to the depth of what that was, because I recognize that my masculine will do the wounded thing of avoiding, right? So my masculine
Totally.
inside will avoid and it will rationalize it in consciousness of, oh, well, that just doesn't align and, you know, it's not my thing or, you know, that they're whatever the story is. And then my feminine, if there's certain things that have maybe gotten sticky inside almost simultaneously at the same time, it will be that floozy kind of really like, oh, don't put any energy into it. Just let it flow. Like, you know, people can do what they want to do. It doesn't affect you. And both of these were distortions in my reality because when I tuned into like my mind, heart, body coherence, it was like, oh, actually, no, that doesn't work for me. And so my masculine was not speaking up and my feminine was not allowing herself to even see that she was so emotionally affected by a situation. So this is an internal experience of what we keep happening externally. And the masculine's being over responsible and the feminine is bypassing, right?
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with what you're saying there, Joe. And exactly the way you said it was exactly perfect. It makes, for me, I'm in alignment with what you're saying. It's about coming into union with yourself, right? And balancing that masculine and the feminine energies out. And if anything, if I know anything over these experiences about bringing both my masculine and the feminine into union within myself. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're always going to have a tipsy turvy to some degree, but not when it's like kind of like that or either way, right? This is the whole thing. This is the key to this, because then when you find and you said bypassing before, I love that, because now I only did a live this morning at 5 o'clock this morning. I was up doing a live on shedding the stories of the past, releasing stories of the past, acknowledging why are you holding on to the past? What is it that you are not wanting to look at? And is it comfortable to be sitting in that? Right. So when you talk about the past and the stories that we create in our mind, it's so true. It's so true. I agree with everything you're saying, because that's exactly where I'm at and where I've been.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just being highlighted at the moment, I feel, of the, and when I say feminine, it doesn't mean woman. And when I say masculine, it doesn't mean man.
Yeah.
The feminine, because we literally do have both running at exactly the same time, but the feminine bypassing of emotional or somatic response the masculine avoidance of anything within the mind. And we can recognize the leaning in. So the leaning in is looking at the story and looking at the past and what it has created as a physical, emotional trauma within the body, no matter what time, space, dimension that was in. And I mean, both of us, I know that you and I both work quite multidimensional in our communications and channeling. And I guess this is where, like, from my own personal experience, and this is something that I wanted to share with you because I felt as though you might be able to receive it in a different way that I know many don't, and it can bring some insight from a less, like, we've done this real human perspective, right? Everyone's a mirror, everyone's showing you your wounds, you got to look at yourself, you got to have willingness, ownership. And then what's happening for me that I'm feeling is a little like challenging, and this trust and surrender piece is there was a couple of things. It was one, there was a huge download that I realized that we have more than one divine union. And I'm like, of course we do. Like,
Of course it is, right? Yes, we
we're
do.
in an infinite universe. Of course we have more than one divine union. So there was this like, how come I'm getting divine union energy for this person, yet my divine union that I had in my energy blueprint reading was this person? They're not the same people. And then it was like, right. So I'll clarify what I believe divine union energy is, and I'd love to hear like what you feel it is. But the divine union energy that I've come to understand is wherever we are at our point in experience, we meet someone that is a complete mirror to our wounding at that point in time that creates this wholeness. And it's an opportunity for us to grow, expand, quantum leap, and to be of more service for humanity.
You've nailed it. I'm right on board with you. You've nailed it. That's exactly spot on. That's exactly how it works with divine union. Because each step, I mean, sometimes they last a lifetime, sometimes they last a season or a short period, right? It doesn't matter how you look at it. The fact is there are many divine unions, right? And I love the fact you shared this because that's exactly where I sit with it. Because I'm looking for that one person to walk through the rest of this life with, but then I'm realizing at the same time, like you just said, Joy, there's many, depending on where you're at on your part of the journey. And all this, and this is just my perspective, right? So all this rubbish about twin flames and all this other stuff, right? I don't know whether they're true or not. Personally, I've walked away from that whole scenario of twin flames. I'm looking more at the concept of where you're at with divine unions all come in at certain times to reflect our parts of us that we need healing. Now, maybe that journey may last for that person for a long time or for the rest of his life, or maybe not. But yes, what you said, spot on. There are many, not just one.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating how we limit ourselves with our mind. Like, and the problem is the confusion that comes with that. So the internal separation that I was experiencing was like, I've only got like, but my divine, this couldn't be my divine union. Like, you know, there's confusion here. I'm not trusting my body. I'm not trusting my and the messages that I'm receiving, because I've decided a belief is this rather than opening and expanding to what it actually is.
I so love this conversation with you. This is right down my alley with what you share. I'm so alignment with this, with what you're saying is yes.
And so that was like one of the first challenges on the multidimensional that I sort of came across in this connection was, Spirit, you told me my divine union was this, and then it's this. So I moved through that. And then it was receiving, and I know you would have very similar because of your channeled messages and different visions and different pieces, and being like, well, I don't get it because that looks like this, and my reality right now looks like this. And the logical part of my brain going, this doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense that whatever creation or experiencing is going to happen, or um, eh, the understanding of the activation and the current reality. And I mean, I am a way shower, I'm a seer, I have the
Yeah.
ability to have visions of the future.
Yeah.
And the part that's like been really magnifying is we have different timelines that are
Yeah.
all running through. We have choice points.
Yeah.
And the choice point moments, I've sat on the other end of a choice point moment so many times where I'm like, what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? Are you going to quantum leap? Come
Yes.
on,
Yes.
quantum leap with me. Come on, please. And and I'm sitting there and I'm like, and they're not. They're like, fear takes over, mind
Yeah.
takes over, and the body and the soul doesn't. And I'm like, motherfucker. Like,
Yes. Exactly.
and I,
Right.
but I also, and then what happens, and I spoke to someone recently about these choice point moments, was
Yeah.
once you miss a choice point, they don't come back.
No,
They are dissolved from
they're
the
gone.
timeline.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yes.
And so
That.
your ability to move in a really fast trajectory forward to your highest divine mission then takes a slower route. And it's not to say that there's not going to be more choice points along that route, but it is the choice of, I'm going to choose fear instead of love. I'm
Yeah.
going to choose fear instead of love. I'm going to choose fear instead of love. And that's the only two choices we ever have.
Fear
So,
or love. That's it. And
yeah.
that's exactly what happened with this last lady. She ran. She ran so fast, it wasn't even funny. No matter how hard I tried to try and rectify it in that first couple of days of her walking away from me, it's like, no, no, I don't want it. No, no, too hard. No, no. And I'm thinking, so you're just going to throw me under the bus and you're going to throw it under the carpet and pretend that this doesn't exist. And we're not going to work through it. No, 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 no. And I'm thinking, there you go. So it's like you said, fear or love. Now I choose love. I choose to walk forward, but I can't be responsible for those who choose fear rather than love to walk with me as an equal to unpack whatever comes up in that union.
Yeah.
Whether it lasts a lifetime or not, that's irrelevant. To me, I'd rather love over fear.
Yeah.
And if there is fear that comes up, then I'll look at that and say, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit fearful right now. Let's unpack this. Let's walk together with this. All right, rather than walk away. And there was something else you were saying too, and I wanted to touch on that as well. Oh, that's right. You were talking about the whole concept of trying to wrap your mind around that there are so many divine unions, right? Well, I want to throw my perspective in from that perspective of what I see is that is a conditioning and a program from the old spiritual ways of saying that it has to be this way. It has to be that way. Well, no, it doesn't have to be any way. Exactly what you said before, and what I say, there's many divine unions, many connections, and most of them make one, you get one that actually wants to unpack with you for the rest of this life. Great, but you may not. And the choice points are always along the way, yes, but if it's not if they walk away, then you've just got to keep walking forward and trust and have faith that the universe will present you with someone else closer aligned to you again. So what I see also, Joe, and I want to say this, and some may not agree with it, and that doesn't matter, it's okay, is that every experience that you go through brings you closer to the one that you may end up walking with for the rest of this life, most possibly. And I'm not saying this is definitive. I'm just saying that every time you walk through something with someone and they do walk away, it brings you that much closer because you're standing strong in love. And then you just got to say, and yes, you'll feel the emotions. Obviously, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting like freaking crap. you're a human being here with emotions, right? It did me a number on this, the last one, but I kept walking forward and think, okay, fine, I'll learn from this. It's okay. It's all good, Seraph. You got this. You just keep walking forward and you'll get closer and closer and closer to another one that'll be more aligned with you, frequency and vibration wise, even though it doesn't have to be perfect either.
Yeah, right.
Perfect is a lie.
And and the multidimensionality of that, right? So it's like, okay, we actually have agreements. So
Yeah, we do.
these connections are agreements made before came here. We're here to activate each other. And
Absolutely.
the relationship of like, okay, yeah, that one didn't work out, but it's taught me, or it's reminded me of more of who I am. And so
Totally.
I'm getting more and more whole as I walk through this path. And some of what I have started to see in my field and other people's field is what I'm starting to witness is that there are agreements that are made, and sometimes those agreements we feel like they're ready to be traversed and journeyed now,
Yes.
but and it's, you feel it at a soul level, like it's so intense and magnetizing and profound that the ego starts to go into attachment and control and holding and manipulating and doing all the things and seeing the illusion.
Absolutely. Yes.
Whereas if we went into these really deep connections that are magnetizing and was like, oh, I'm aware of a possibility,
Yeah,
I
totally.
had a vision, and is it now though, right? Is the divine timing of
I love that.
how much of it experiencing for myself, like how much
Yeah.
do I have to see myself and activate whatever gifts or whatever like healing and reconciliation of my own soul fragments do I need before and simultaneously at the same time as this other person or counterpart has to,
Yeah.
before that merging can take place in a way where there's a meeting.
Yes.
And it's the control elements that I'm finding within the mind of
I would
trying
agree
to
with that.
control the multidimensional
You
and
can't.
yeah, and trying to control an idea that things are not destined as well. So
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of can be challenging for the human. Like it can be really
Absolutely.
challenging for the human because if humans like, well, this doesn't fit my idea of what my life looks like, and this person doesn't look like the person that I knew or I had created within my mind that I was going to be with. And there's this like, I'm not ready and they're not this, and all of those different things. Whereas on a multidimensional level, if we let go of this mind and we peace and we're like, oh, okay, so there's a beautiful direct union mirror here for me. What if I just met them in each moment? What if I was like, instead of creating a narrative and a story of this is this person and they're going to give me this, what if I just chose to see, oh, you're actually showing me myself here. Oh, what can I see? What can I feel? Like,
I love it.
what can I
Yes.
experience?
I
And
love that.
yeah,
Because we place conditions on these things as humans. Like you said, the mind will get distracted and it'll throw all this. And then, like you said before, Joe, you'll throw the conditionings on. Oh, but you're not like this. You're not the way I expected it. It's like, well, hello, I'm a human being, still. I mean, I may not perfect, but I got a beautiful heart. Or, the manipulation. Oh my God, I just saw that actually when I did try a little. There was a little bit of manipulation with the last one, actually, to some degree, but then I just let go. I thought, I'm not going to waste my energy. It's no point. She doesn't want this. That's fine. I'll just walk away in the end anyway.
mm,
Right? Because there was a connection. And I totally agree with what you're saying too, Joe. Forgive me for, sorry, interrupting, but I just wanted to share this with you. Every person we meet is destined to be. We sign up for this before we come down here on soul level, and we may be ready on the higher levels, right, of multidimensionality. On the ground, like you said, the mind gets involved. Oh man, it becomes a myriad of mess, because if you're not focused, if you do not have the tools to unpack the thoughts and the craziness and the conditioning and the patterns and the beliefs, that's going to set you up for a massive, phenomenal challenge in that union. And unless you're both willing to grow through those challenges, it's eventually, once again, it's going to part, right? So everything you said, I'm right on there with you all the way.
Yeah. It's and I guess this brings it into another piece, like we're always trying to seek more truth or remember more truth and share
Yeah,
more truth and activate more truth. And
totally.
um, the 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 piece around something being multidimensional and feeling so true and so ready, and then the human having to catch up to that. And
Yeah,
I see this in my life in many ways. Like, we'll just take the divine union part out for a second.
yeah,
Just with my purpose and my remembrance and my visions and the things that I've wanted to create, it's like I've been sitting with some things for 2 and 3 years. I
yeah,
knew my company name. I knew what I was here to create in the world. I knew a vision of what my modality looks like and all of these different pieces. And multidimensionally, there's like a knowing and a readiness. And that was not, I knew it wasn't going to shift, but it's taken the integration phase, right? Has
yes,
taken me 2.5 to 3 years to get to a point where I'm in right now, where I'm like, I know my life's work. I know what my full purpose of being here is, and
yeah,
I can live from that space and create a I guess a mission or fulfill my mission now, because
yeah,
there's no resistance there. The 2.5 years of human resistance has been peeled back, whether it's unworthiness or not trusting myself and
yeah.
um, confidence or embodiment or, whatever those pieces have been that have just slowly been coming off and coming into this place of, yeah, okay, having this multidimensional understanding, but how do we bring that and anchor it into this physical experience? And it's no different to divine union energy. It's like you can have a multi-dimensional divine union understanding, but until we see the parts of ourselves and others and we're not able to bring that into I guess a solid embodiment, how do we actually receive that?
Yeah, and see, you've led me right into what I wanted to say about that, actually, GI. And uh, okay, from my perspective, what I see, it really takes two people who are willing to work through the stuff and who are consciously aware of the programs, the conditioning, and the patterns that they run in their mind, and who are constantly willing to step back, not take things personally when one or the other are triggered. And that's about the communication process as well. It's huge. Oh my God, I've learned so much about communicating over the freaking last 3 years alone. It's insane. Just by my interactions with friends, let alone couple of short-term unions I have had. But it's communicating, it's working through the fear processes, it's actually knowing yourself of and sitting there and holding space for the other person. It's like, okay, what's going on, Robin? Why are you upset? What's happening for you? Is there a fear coming up? I just want to understand why, what's happening for you so we can work through this together. When you come into, we'll use the word relationship, right? For argument's sake, because we came into experience that as well in regards to human relationships. But the point is, it's going back to the past, your childhood, because I think it was you that did this once before. I think you said something last year about this, or maybe that we marry our parents, right? That's true. Oh my God, is that so true? And people will get triggered by that because it's so true. Because the programs and the conditioning and the patterns we pick up and beliefs from our parents, how we see our parents run their marriage, right? As such, is what we take into life to follow through with our unions. And every time we unpack something, like you said before, it brings us closer to somebody who actually wants to work together, wants to come together and work through the communication issues, the fear-based stuff, the intricate layers, the insecurities, and all this stuff by sitting down and actually talking to each other, communicating on every single level, right? And if you get triggered, say, "Whoa, hang on a minute, Diane. I'm feeling really triggered right now. I'm upset. I'm feeling angry. I don't know why. But I need some space. Give me a little bit of time, and I'll come back to you." And you can say, and this is how I tried. This is how we tried to work it in the first couple months of the last one, by saying, "Okay, we must remember not to take things personally because it's just our own and the wounds coming up." And that worked for a while until it all fell apart, and she didn't want to go deeper, right? Okay, and I saw why. And so this is the thing. When we got to look back at what we saw as a childhood with our own parents, right, GIR? And it takes communication. When you come into union, you've got to have someone who's willing to unpack with you, even through the deepest fears. And fear is everything. It's like you said, it's only fear or love. So fear is the basis of everything. And commitment's huge for people too when they want to commit to someone. It's like, oh my God, no, because they've been burned so many times before. I don't want to commit. What happens if it happens again? What if it actually fucking works? Because you're willing to unpack.
All right. So
I hope I made sense when I said all that.
yes, so agreeing with everything that you're saying, and what's coming up is really interesting, and exactly what I'm just going to be completely in my authenticity and my truth in this moment is where we so naturally go into presenter, right? You and I, because we're always presenting information. We're always channeling information. And so the energy that I'm receiving of this is like it is a podcast. And so what I'm going to challenge both of us to do is to drop into that raw realness of like right in the body. And I can feel like in my throat, even just saying that was like, because what was like arriving for me in that has been a wound that is surfacing for me at the moment around commitment. And I can feel in my lower back, there's like all this energy and heat and pain, like just like as you were talking, because what it was doing, I can feel it activating this emotional response within me around feels like self-betrayal of you've been committed to wanting to be raw and authentic and really vulnerable in your expressions, yet are you, right? So I'm like tuning in and I'm like, oh, there's like still this mask. There's still this like I'm channeling information and we're having a great chat, which is super important, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what I'm also feeling is there's a lack of vulnerability. There's a lack of raw, real truth of what I'm experiencing in my body as we're doing this.
Yeah.
Of talking from a story, but not talking from the feeling of the experience and the depth. And I believe, oh, it makes me want to cry. Oh, I truly believe that when we talk from what's alive inside of us,
Yes,
that resonates with people.
absolutely.
Felt in the heart, it's felt in the body, it's experienced, and it helps to heal others. And so, I'm gonna express what I'm experiencing, and I'm gonna unpack. If you can, you hold space for me right now?
Absolutely, I can. Absolutely, I can.
What I'm like, I actually feel really nauseous, and when I go into the nausea in my body, what I feel is fear of the future, because I'm recognizing I am like stepping into this full commitment to my purpose, and it's like there's no more excuses anymore. It's like part of me that's like, it's all right, like the lack of ownership
Yeah,
or the lack of what I've been judging in other people, which really hurts to see, is this part of me that's like, come on, like get into alignment, you know, like you can do better than that. And I know this part of me is like, you have the tools. You know what it feels like to be in that space. Yet you're choosing out of it. So there's this self betrayal
yeah,
that I can be embodied in truth. I can be embodied in vulnerability. I can be embodied in emotion, and I'm still choosing not to be at times because why? Why am I feeling that? I'm experiencing it in my throat, which is no surprise because I've been feeling like this, like strangling, suffocating fullness in my throat for a while.
yeah.
And I feel it in my root chakra, and it feels like, mm, mm, what does it feel like? Sadness. Uh, that's so interesting. Feels like the grieving and the sadness of the identity and the loss of a story I've created about myself. I can't hold on to those stories or narratives anymore because they're so past. I feel like all this grief be released. It's like releasing the child, but loving the child at the same time,
Absolutely.
and bringing that part. I just want a light language. Like I can just feel all this light language wanting to come in to like move what's in my heart. Like it feels really heavy.
Yeah,
Arya Satyanaya Tia Shataya Tush Wea Tianiana Arya Ke Arya Tianiahu. Just give some context to like a bodily response of that in process. It's your body's releasing but also opening. And you're
yes,
nervous when the shaking's there, the nervous system is kind of holding because
yes,
it's the safety.
yeah,
Um, and it's just this shift in the frequency of the atoms and the molecules that takes place when we release something.
Releasing the cellular memory too, Gia.
Yeah. And what it feels really this life. Like that's what it feels like. It's not like a multidimensional or a past life or an ancestral piece. It's like it's this life. Yeah, I get like at the age of 4. Almost like I've decided to be something
Yeah.
at that age. And whatever I decided in my mind at that time is no longer true, and I have to release this created vision of what my life was going to look like. So I'm just going to ask to release that. I can feel like there's the clearing was in that. It was just releasing this story, this dream. I didn't even have a narrative of. That's what's really interesting is I don't have a narrative of what that was. It was just something that the 4-year-old version of me created that
Yeah.
is keeping me separate from my commitment to myself and to the divine. I can feel a desire for, like in my energy field, to activate. What activation is through? Courage, the virtue of courage. I'm asking for the codes and the frequencies to come down from Creator, to come through every atom, molecule, and cell of my being. Receive courage. Transmute and transform this wounding within my heart. So I can step into the highest, divinest version of myself. I would love to know what you're experiencing on the witnessing end of this.
I was actually feeling into what you were moving through with that, to be honest. And I was feeling there was and I mean, you may not agree with it, okay, Joe, but I'm just feeling into what you're moving through personally, and what I was seeing myself as some form of abuse when you were younger. And yeah, but I also felt the shifting through that quite beautifully as well at the same time. Because when you said, see, when we attach to a story, as long as we realize there's something going on, we don't need to attach to that story either. But then we can just release it so much easier rather than holding on to that and say, well, okay, oh my God, it's like, then we can just release it a lot easier because it happened. Just like we can't change the past. And I said that this morning in the live I did earlier. I said, we can't change the past. Why drag the past into the present? Because if you're hanging on to the past, the present moment's dead, right? So what you were moving through for that just then was beautiful because you're moving yourself more into the present moment of the commitment to yourself and to the divine. And this is the problem: is a lot of people out, and I want to share this with people and you this morning, is that people, they commit to everyone else, but they lack the commitment to themselves. When you commit to yourself, that's when the other will come in. whoever it may be and how many, it doesn't matter. Because creation, source, whatever you want to see it, divine, Buddha, whatever, they see that you're committed to you and to them. More you do the inner work on yourself while you're waiting for that other person to come in without waiting as such or an attachment to it, the more you're going to draw that to you. That's creating. I didn't even want to use the word manifesting because I have a real distaste in my mouth of manifesting, right? Creating. And whatever it's meant to be will align with you, like you said, in the higher realm. So no matter who it is that you signed up to meet in the physical world, that's going to happen. You can't miss it. How long it lasts for is it's irrelevant. So moving through that past and being committed to yourself and first and foremost, that's the key. Because if you're not committed to yourself, you're not committed to your own growth, you're not committed to your own healing, you're just going to stay back there.
There's a few like pieces. Yes, I felt all of this emotion come up about abuse, and that really resonated. And it's like, although I didn't receive the story, I still witnessed whatever I had created an identity about myself from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and to bring through courage makes a lot of sense, and felt like, I guess, a confirmation of that. And for me, a lot of this last couple of months has been going into the subconscious memory and activating trauma from 2 and 3 and 4 that I didn't even know existed. And and the mind will give you the memory that you need to witness it, to release it. So it's like you don't actually have to know the story. You just have to be willing to notice that there is something there.
Absolutely. And that's the key. And have the courage to walk through it. Because we're all courageous, we're all strong. It's just we're fed that fear of from as young as we can remember, we're told to just push everything away and to ignore it and to shut it down. Right? And not feel. I know that was my biggest thing for me as a kid. I was told to shut up, sit down, and not, be a big freaking a baby, cry baby about shit, right? And grow up and be a man. Well, that didn't serve me very well, I can tell you. That's why I say it's important for people to feel through those emotions and feelings, but not attach to a story to it. To say, okay, it happened. I can't change it, but from now on in, I'm going to write a new story, and that story is going to be completely different to the one that happened to me at 4 years old.
Yeah, definitely. And in that, like, I can feel the shift in my body. There is still some. It doesn't even feel like clearing or activation. It feels like whatever the reconciliation piece is already taking place. But there was something else that you said that I actually feel is not a highest truth, and I used to have this viewpoint as well, and it's where I guess the choice point piece comes up again, of this idea that's what's meant for you will not go past you. And I believe that's distorted, because we can miss what's meant for us if we don't choose the highest, divinest timeline for us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's like we can miss what is truly destined for us if we don't choose to listen to spirit or to our higher self or to love. And we can stagnate, and we can, in this repetitive human cycle of suffering.
Yeah. Because you end up on the old hamster wheel, right? And you're running around and around the hamster wheel thinking, no, hang on, why is my life changing? Because you're not listening to your heart and soul. You're listening to the ego perspective of your programs and your patterns and your conditioning. So I understand what you're saying with that, John. I do agree with that. So, I mean, I guess the experiences, because we have free will, we always have the choice to move forward into our higher timeline, like you said, or we can say stuck in a repetitive pattern. So yes, I understand what you're saying. I may not
It's
get
just,
all the words correct exactly what I explained at times, but when we line together and you put your point across, most of the time we're pretty much in agreement. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
which is why these conversations are so powerful, is because you're getting different perspectives. And then
Absolutely.
also why it's so important for me as a way shower, as a bringer of change, as a priestess be to not miss those moments in my own life of I felt this and this is what I am here to show is and lean into it in that moment. It was there, it was alive, it was raw, it was real, it was inside of me,
Yeah.
and it was a choice to choose a higher divine timeline
Yes,
by
absolutely.
something internally so I can come back into more truth. Can I ask you, my dear,
Yeah.
if you tune into your body and your experience right now, what are you feeling in your most vulnerable experience?
Are we talking like the one previously?
Just now, like what's alive inside of you right now?
Honestly, I'm feeling just a sense of joy in this moment right now. I'm feeling a sense of peace and harmony that I've had this conversation with you today, actually, dearest heart, because it's been an incredible experience for me today. Not only have I got more of an insight into to you, I got to share my vulnerability of what I've been through as much as you have as well. So in vulnerability, I'm feeling really at peace today. I'm feeling right in this moment. I'm feeling right now at peace with everything and
Mhm.
everything that we've done. And I'm deeply humbled for the experience too.
Mm,
And for that, I honor you.
mm, beautiful. And I guess there's like even there are times where I've done, say, coaching sessions with people,
Yeah.
and my viewpoint sometimes has been from a more negative or a clearing viewpoint, right? Of like, got to be something to shift, there's got to be something to move. And what I'm starting to see is sometimes when I have a one on one, what's alive and what's there is that there's actually space for activation rather than clearing or distortion. So it's like
Yes.
what you're experiencing in your body is like you're in a place of gratitude and honor and openness and expansion. It's like, oh, that in itself is like I'm present with that I am expanding and I'm like excited by that. You know, like what can be um created in truth from that lens. If there was one thing that you felt like in alignment with what you just shared to call in for like more for your being and for the collective, what would it be?
First word that comes to my mind straight, or the first thing that comes to me straight away is gratitude. Actually, gratitude.
Mm.
Just gratitude.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. Gratitude for life and all of the
Yeah.
miracles.
For everything. Gratitude to the experiences, good, bad, different, whatever the case. Just gratitude, full stop. That's
Mm,
the first thing that come to me, and that's exactly what I'm going to go with. Gratitude.
beautiful. I'm going to ask that we can both receive that sense of gratitude into our bodies. And all of those vibrations and calling in more of that, the gratitude for this human experience, right? And I feel like that's probably a challenge for a lot of way showers and light workers is that they have there hasn't been that shift in perspective of gratitude for this, what
No.
we've chosen, of what we are really here to do, and to see that this is the experience of heaven on earth. Like that gratitude for, there are, just from a really zoomed out perspective, there are so many beings that would love to be here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we are resisting, or many of I no longer resist my human and this experience because I'm like, fuck, this is like epic. And I feel in my truth as a soul, I'm not going to get a chance to come back here. So I'm going to like just be in the gratitude of what's here because I don't know if I will get to have that in the infinite expansion of unfolding evolution again. And then maybe I will, but what I feel at a soul level,
Yep,
which is that this is my moment here. And that just brings you into that beautiful presence of like, embrace it, embrace why we've come here at this point in time.
exactly, Joe. And I want to say on that note too, a lot of people do of the in the realm of the ones who are awake, and they do have quite a lot of awareness when. And once again, it's not a judgment because believe me, I've been there many times where I've wanted to just ignore the human experience. They get to that point where they ignore their humanness and sit on a higher plane of, well, you know what, I don't nothing to do. I don't want to do nothing more. That's it. I'm done. And they're missing the biggest show on freaking earth here for all of us, right? Because when I leave this world, I want to go skidding into that freaking grave and say, "What a hell of a ride! Let's come back and do it again." Because that's how I look at it now. It's like, holy crap! And regardless of the age, like age is an illusion, we know that. But seriously, regardless of that, it's like I'm 57 solar years old, man. When I hit that grave, I want to freaking skid in there and go, "What the hell of a ride! I want to do it again. Let's come back and do it again." Because for me to get to this point where I am in right now, holy crap. What I've been through, it's like, oh, wow. So yeah, if to anyone out there, please acknowledge the humanness, like Gia said, because you may never get another lifetime to experience it again. And
Mm.
I'll tell you what, to get through the dirtiness, to get to the good stuff, it's worth every little inch of piece of crappy shit you go through to get to it, because I will state that clearly. It's been everything I've gone through has been worth it. It's been worth it, and I love it.
And then you can meet the grief and the sorrow and the pain and the shame and the distortion with love. And that's where it's transformative.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm. Thank you, my beautiful friend, for your
Thank
time.
you. I'm in deep honor and gratitude and nobility for you, GIR, and I'm deeply humbled by today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So something that came through just then to sign off. um, you do light language also.
Yeah, I do.
You like to join me in a little transmission?
Sure. I'm happy to do that. Thank you for asking.
Ah, all right. How about we take 3 deep breaths together and just allow whatever to come through together
Yes,
for closing of this experience.
absolutely.
Whew. Okay, taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. The nose. Ah, and again. Endearea kuere hien.
Oh, makasi na pa ko shika na mali chino ko mali sho no makata hishu bakalali ka lamai sho mahlali
Guaiariate, hunduaria ni anua tua.
iti kucho na pali nali shuko no shirapana kali na ho mali chino mali kama ik no.
Otayakaria tua nia naerea nia nia ukuerea shia dushu tukusu tukuearia ni.
Ika baparika no kuchino makana lika shukuna palina flikichuno no panana papa shinoma. No. Isina kala like no makli na tapari kicking the left no to no barleta that leta to the leta posto. Makala, lady the anada.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jaya. Thank you so much.
You're amazing. Keep showing up and talk again.
So you, thank you. Thank you. I feel like I know a little bit more about you now, even more so. From the humorous anyway, definitely.
Yeah. Welcome.
Uh,
Deeply seen and felt in all of the magic.
Thank you so much. And so have you. Mm. Oh boy. Bye.